Have you ever prayed for something, tried everything, and still watched the door slowly close? You made dua, you stayed patient, you told yourself, maybe this is written for me, but instead of opening, the path became heavier. Conversations changed, opportunities faded, and deep inside, a quiet question started to grow. Why would Allah take this away if my heart wanted it so much? What if the closed door is not rejection? What if the delay is not failure? What if Allah is protecting you from a future you cannot yet see? Sometimes the greatest mercy does not feel like a blessing at first. Sometimes protection looks like confusion, like silence, like something slipping out of your hands, even while you are still trying to hold on. In this reminder, we're going to uncover 5 powerful signs that Allah may be closing a door not to hurt you, but to guide you somewhere safer, wiser, and closer to Him. So if you are standing in front of a door that refuses to open, don't rush to call it loss, because what Allah removes with wisdom, He replaces with something your heart will understand later. Sign 1. Every attempt loses its ease. Sometimes the first sign that Allah is closing a door is not loud or dramatic. It is the quiet loss of ease. What once felt smooth begins to feel heavy. Conversations no longer flow naturally, plans require more force, and every step forward seems slower than before. You try to hold on to the same path, but the peace that once accompanied it starts to fade. This shift does not always mean you have failed. Sometimes it means Allah is gently removing barakah so you can begin to notice what your heart was too attached to see clearly. In Islam, ease is often a subtle form of guidance. When something is good for your growth and aligned with your sincerity, Allah places a softness in the journey. But when a path begins to demand constant struggle without spiritual clarity, it may be a signal to pause and reflect. Losing ease is not the same as losing value. It is a moment where Allah invites you to reassess where your energy is going and why you are still holding on. You may find yourself trying harder than ever, believing that effort alone will reopen the door. Yet the more you push, the more resistance you encounter. Emails remain unanswered, timing never aligns, and the outcome stays just out of reach. This repeated friction can feel confusing, especially when your intentions are sincere. But sometimes Allah changes the rhythm of a path, so you realize that forcing something is not the same as trusting Him. When Allah begins to close a door, He often does not remove it instantly. Instead, He allows a gradual shift so your heart can adjust. You might notice small obstacles appearing one after another, each one asking you to reconsider your direction. These moments are not meant to humiliate you. They are invitations to look deeper, to ask whether the effort you are investing is bringing you closer to Him or simply keeping you attached to an outcome. There is wisdom in how Allah reshapes your perception during these times. What once looked promising begins to reveal hidden discomforts. The excitement you felt starts to transform into quiet exhaustion. This transformation does not happen overnight. It unfolds slowly so that your attachment loosens gently rather than breaking suddenly. Allah knows the fragility of the human heart, and He often closes doors with patience so you can walk away without losing yourself. Losing ease can feel like being stuck between hope and uncertainty. You remember how things used to be, and you keep expecting that same feeling to return. Yet the path continues to feel heavier, as if something invisible is pulling you back. Instead of rushing to label this as a sign of personal weakness, consider that Allah may be protecting you from a future where that same heaviness would become permanent. At times, you might compare yourself to others whose journeys appear effortless. You see doors opening for them, while yours seem to remain still. This comparison can quietly plant doubt in your heart. But guidance is personal. Allah does not shape every story the same way. What feels like delay for you may be preservation from a situation that only Allah fully understands. One of the most challenging parts of losing ease is the emotional confusion it creates. You question your intentions, your dua, even your own worth. Yet Islam reminds us that Allah's wisdom is not always visible in the moment. The removal of comfort from a path can be an act of mercy, gently redirecting you towards something that aligns more deeply with your growth and faith. Sometimes the struggle continues because your heart is not ready to release what it loves. Allah allows the process to unfold slowly, so you can see clearly why the door is closing. Each obstacle becomes a lesson, teaching you that true reliance is not about clinging to a specific outcome, but about trusting the one who controls every outcome. You may also notice that your motivation begins to shift. The urgency that once drove you fades into quiet reflection. Instead of feeling energized by the pursuit, you start to feel drained. This emotional change can be a sign that your soul is preparing to detach, even if your mind is still trying to hold on. When ease disappears, it is natural to ask whether you should continue trying. Islam encourages effort, but it also encourages awareness. There is a difference between patient perseverance and exhausting yourself for something that no longer carries peace. Learning to recognize that difference is part of spiritual maturity. At times, Allah removes ease to teach you that success is not measured by how tightly you hold on to a single path. Real growth often begins when you accept that not every opportunity is meant to stay in your life. The loss of ease becomes a teacher, reminding you that your worth does not depend on one door remaining open. You might find that your prayers during this period become deeper and more honest. Instead of asking only for the door to open, you begin to ask for clarity and acceptance. This shift in dua reflects a transformation within your heart. It shows that you are starting to trust Allah's wisdom more than your own expectations. As the journey continues, the heaviness may reveal truths you had overlooked. Perhaps the environment no longer supports your faith, or the relationship drains your energy, or the goal itself no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Losing ease brings these realizations to the surface, helping you see beyond the illusion of attachment. There is also a quiet mercy in how Allah protects you from forcing what is not meant for you. If every attempt remained easy, you might never question whether the path was right. The difficulty becomes a form of guidance, steering you away from something that could harm you in ways you cannot yet understand. During these moments, patience takes on a new meaning. It is no longer just about waiting for a door to open. It is about accepting that Allah may be guiding you somewhere else entirely. This acceptance does not come instantly. It grows slowly, shaped by reflection, prayer, and the willingness to trust what you cannot yet see. The disappearance of ease often invites you to reconnect with your intention. Why did you begin this journey in the first place? Was it for Allah, for validation, or for a sense of control? As you ask these questions, you may realize that the closing door is helping you purify your purpose rather than abandon it. Even when the path feels heavy, Allah remains close to the one who continues to seek Him sincerely. The loss of ease is not a sign that He has left you. It may be a sign that He is guiding you more carefully than before. Each moment of uncertainty becomes an opportunity to strengthen your reliance on Him rather than on outcomes. Eventually, you may reach a point where you stop chasing the same result with the same intensity. This shift does not mean you have given up. It means you are beginning to trust that Allah's plan extends beyond what you can see. The heaviness that once felt unbearable starts to feel like a gentle push toward a new direction. Looking back, many believers realize that the moments when every attempt lost its ease were actually the beginning of protection. What felt like resistance was guidance in disguise, and what seemed like a closing door became the first step toward a path that carried more peace, more growth, and a deeper connection with Allah. Sign 2. Your heart feels restless, even when everything looks right. Sometimes a door looks perfect from the outside. The opportunity seems ideal, the person appears right, and everything aligns in a way that makes sense logically. Yet inside, your heart refuses to settle. You smile, you try to convince yourself, but a quiet unease keeps returning. This restlessness is not always anxiety. It can be a form of subtle guidance that Allah places within you when something is not meant to stay. In Islam, the heart is not only emotional, it is a place where clarity can descend. You may find yourself making dua repeatedly, asking Allah to place peace in your chest, but instead the discomfort grows stronger. This is not a sign that your faith is weak. Sometimes Allah removes inner calm, so you stop mistaking attachment for alignment. When peace disappears without clear reason, it invites you to listen more deeply. You might tell yourself that you are overthinking. You try to ignore the feeling, hoping that time will make it disappear. Yet, even in moments of happiness, the restlessness returns like a quiet whisper. This emotional tension is not always meant to be solved quickly. It can be a protective signal, gently reminding you that what looks right externally may not be right for your soul. There are moments when everyone around you encourages the path you are on. They see success, stability, or happiness, and they assume you should feel the same. But your heart carries a different awareness, one that cannot be explained easily. This difference can feel isolating, yet it is often where Allah begins to guide you away from what your eyes still admire. Restlessness can also appear as a loss of deep excitement. You continue moving forward, but something within you feels distant. The joy that once motivated you becomes quieter, replaced by a subtle heaviness. This shift does not mean you are ungrateful. It may be Allah gently reshaping your desires so you no longer chase something that will not nurture your growth. When the heart feels unsettled, many people assume they need clearer signs or dramatic answers. But guidance is often quiet. It shows itself through a lack of inner peace rather than through loud warnings. Islam teaches us that tranquility is a gift, and when that tranquility is removed, it can be a sign to pause and reflect rather than to rush forward blindly. You may find yourself questioning whether the restlessness comes from fear or from divine protection. This uncertainty is natural. The key is not to panic but to turn inward through prayer and reflection. When you ask Allah sincerely for clarity, the heart begins to reveal what words cannot fully express. Sometimes the discomfort intensifies when you try to force yourself to feel differently. You repeat affirmations, distract yourself, or bury the feeling under constant activity, yet the quiet tension remains. This persistence is not meant to exhaust you. It is meant to slow you down enough to recognize that your soul is searching for a different direction. As the days pass, you might notice that your connection with Allah deepens through this restlessness. You begin to make more sincere dua, seeking not just outcomes but understanding. This transformation shifts your focus from controlling the situation to trusting that Allah is guiding you through an unseen process. There are times when the heart senses what the mind cannot yet accept. You may feel drawn away from a path without fully understanding why. This lack of clarity can be uncomfortable, but it is also an invitation to rely on faith rather than certainty. Allah's protection does not always arrive with explanations. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet refusal to feel at peace where you once did. Restlessness can also reveal hidden truths about your intentions. Perhaps you started the journey with pure purpose, but over time your motivation changed. The discomfort becomes a mirror, showing you what needs to be realigned within yourself. Instead of viewing it as a problem, you can see it as an opportunity for spiritual growth. You may notice that even moments of outward success fail to bring lasting satisfaction. Achievements feel temporary, and praise from others does not reach your heart the way it once did. This emptiness is not a punishment. It can be a sign that Allah is teaching you to seek fulfillment from Him rather than from external validation. When Allah closes a door through inner unrest, He often prepares your heart for a new perspective. You begin to see situations more clearly, noticing patterns you ignored before. What once seemed perfect reveals its limitations, and your heart slowly learns to detach without bitterness. It is important to remember that restlessness is not always a call to abandon everything immediately. Sometimes it is simply a reminder to move with more awareness. Islam encourages balance, to reflect deeply while continuing to act responsibly. The feeling itself becomes a teacher, guiding you toward wiser decisions. During this phase, patience takes on a different meaning. Instead of waiting for the situation to change externally, you learn to observe the changes within yourself. Each moment of unease becomes a step toward greater self-understanding and stronger reliance on Allah's wisdom. You might also experience moments of unexpected calm when you imagine walking away from the door. This brief sense of relief can be revealing. It shows that your heart is already preparing for a transition, even if your mind is still uncertain. Allah sometimes places these glimpses of peace as reassurance that letting go will not destroy you. As you continue reflecting, you may realize that the restlessness has protected you from rushing into something permanent. Decisions made without inner peace often lead to regret. By allowing you to feel unsettled, Allah slows you down, giving you space to see what truly aligns with your faith and well-being. There is a quiet strength that develops when you learn to listen to your heart without fear. Instead of viewing restlessness as a flaw, you begin to see it as a form of spiritual awareness. It teaches you to trust that Allah is guiding you, even when you cannot fully understand the direction. Eventually, the feeling of unease may transform into clarity. You start to recognize that the door you once desired is not meant to define your future. This realization does not come with anger or disappointment. It arrives with acceptance, shaped by prayer and reflection. Looking back, many believers realize that the restlessness they once feared was actually protection in disguise. It was Allah's way of gently steering their hearts away from what could not bring lasting peace. And in that quiet discomfort, they discovered a deeper connection with Him, one that remained long after the door had closed. Sign 3: delays keep happening without clear reason. Sometimes the clearest sign that Allah is closing a door is not a sudden rejection, but a pattern of delays that quietly repeat. You prepare carefully, you make sincere dua, you take the right steps, yet everything moves slower than expected. Appointments get postponed, plans shift unexpectedly, and what once seemed close begins to drift further away. These delays can feel confusing because nothing appears completely wrong, yet nothing moves forward with real momentum. In the language of dunya, delay often feels like failure. We live in a world that praises speed, immediate results, and constant progress. But in Islam, delay carries a deeper meaning. Allah does not measure time the way we do, and what feels late to us may actually be perfectly timed in His wisdom. When delays appear repeatedly without clear explanation, it may be Allah protecting you from reaching something before you are ready for it. You might begin to question yourself during these moments. You ask whether you made the wrong choices or missed an important sign. Yet sometimes the delay has nothing to do with your mistakes. It is simply Allah adjusting the rhythm of your life so you do not step into a situation that would harm your heart or your future. Protection does not always come through obvious obstacles. It can come through quiet postponement. One of the hardest parts of repeated delay is maintaining patience when others seem to move forward easily. You watch doors open for people around you while yours remains still. This comparison can make you feel forgotten, even though Allah's plan for you is unfolding with care. Every believer's path is unique, and delay does not mean abandonment. It may mean that Allah is shaping your story differently. During these periods, you may notice that your perspective begins to shift. At first, you focus only on the outcome you want. But as time passes, you start to reflect more deeply on your intentions and your growth. Delay becomes a mirror, revealing areas of your life that need strengthening before the next chapter begins. Instead of rushing forward, you are invited to slow down and realign. There is also a hidden mercy in how delays protect you from irreversible decisions. If every door opened immediately, you might never pause to question whether it truly aligned with your faith and well-being. Allah's timing introduces space for reflection, allowing your heart to mature before you commit to something permanent. What feels like waiting can actually be preparation. You might find yourself repeating the same efforts again and again, hoping that this time the outcome will change. Yet the pattern of delay continues. Rather than viewing this as a wall, consider it a gentle signal. Allah may be guiding you to look beyond the door itself and toward the lessons unfolding within you. The repetition is not meaningless. It carries wisdom meant to deepen your awareness. Sometimes, delay teaches humility. It reminds you that control belongs to Allah alone, no matter how carefully you plan. You learn to release the illusion that effort guarantees immediate results. This surrender does not weaken you, it strengthens your reliance on Allah, allowing your faith to grow in ways that success alone could never achieve. As the waiting continues, you may notice subtle changes in your heart. The urgency that once drove you begins to soften. You become more open to possibilities you had not considered before. This shift is not accidental. It reflects how Allah prepares you for a direction that may differ from your original expectation. Delays can also reveal the true nature of a situation. Over time, hidden challenges or mismatches become visible. You begin to see aspects you overlooked when you were focused only on the outcome. This clarity does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gradually, allowing your heart to detach gently rather than through sudden disappointment. There are moments when you feel tempted to force the door open despite the delays. You consider shortcuts, compromises, or decisions driven by impatience. Yet deep within, you sense that rushing forward would disturb your peace. Allah's protection often lies in the very pauses that test your patience. By slowing you down, He protects you from choices you might regret later. You may also experience periods of doubt, wondering whether your dua is being heard. The silence between efforts can feel heavy, especially when you long for clear answers. But delay does not mean your prayers are ignored. Every sincere dua is seen by Allah, and sometimes the answer comes in the form of redirection rather than fulfillment. During these moments, your relationship with time itself begins to change. Instead of measuring progress by speed, you learn to measure it by growth. Each delay becomes an opportunity to strengthen your character, deepen your trust, and refine your intentions. What once felt like wasted time transforms into a season of quiet preparation. It is important to remember that delay does not always mean the door will close permanently. Sometimes Allah delays something to test your patience or to protect you from unseen harm in the present moment. The key is not to assume failure, but to remain open to the wisdom behind the pause. Guidance often unfolds slowly, revealing its purpose only in hindsight. As you continue to wait, you may notice unexpected blessings appearing in other areas of your life. New connections, new insights, or new opportunities begin to emerge. These moments remind you that Allah's plan is not limited to a single path. While one door remains delayed, another may quietly begin to open. The emotional weight of delay can also teach you compassion for others who are waiting in their own lives. You begin to understand that every person carries unseen struggles and silent prayers. This awareness softens your heart, helping you move through your own journey with greater empathy and humility. Eventually, you may reach a point where the delay itself brings peace. Instead of feeling trapped, you start to trust that Allah's timing is guiding you exactly where you need to be. The waiting becomes less about achieving a specific outcome and more about growing into the person you are meant to become. When you look back, You might realize that the delays saved you from rushing into something that would have overwhelmed you. What felt frustrating at the time reveals itself as careful protection. Allah's wisdom often hides within the pauses, shaping your story in ways that only become clear later. Repeated delay is not a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that Allah is moving your life with intention. Each postponed step becomes part of a larger design, guiding you toward a future that carries more balance, more clarity, and more peace. And when the door finally closes, or a new one opens, you may understand that the delays were never empty spaces. They were moments filled with unseen mercy, shaping your path gently until your heart was ready to walk forward with trust instead of urgency. Sign 4. Allah removes the attachment before He removes the door. Sometimes, Allah does not close a door immediately. Instead, He begins by quietly changing your heart. What you once held onto tightly starts to feel lighter in your hands. The urgency fades, the obsession softens, and you notice that your thoughts no longer revolve around that same desire. This shift can feel confusing at first, because nothing outside has changed yet, but inside, something is gently being rearranged. Attachment is powerful because it shapes how we see the world. When we love an outcome deeply, we often overlook the signs that it may not be good for us. Allah, in His mercy, sometimes weakens that attachment slowly, so that when the door finally closes, it does not break your spirit. This is not emotional distance. It is protection unfolding in a quiet and compassionate way. You might remember a time when the idea of losing that door felt unbearable. The thought alone created anxiety, fear, or even desperation. But as days pass, you realize that the intensity is fading. You still care, but the emotional weight becomes softer. This is often how Allah prepares the heart, not by forcing you to let go, but by gently loosening the grip you once had. During this phase, you may feel a sense of unexpected calm when you imagine life without that specific outcome. It surprises you because you once believed that your happiness depended entirely on it. This new calm does not come from indifference. It comes from trust growing quietly within you. Allah replaces anxious attachment with a more stable reliance on Him. There is wisdom in how Allah changes your desires before changing your circumstances. If the door closed suddenly while your attachment was still strong, the loss might feel overwhelming. By reshaping your heart first, He protects you from unnecessary pain. You begin to understand that real strength is not in holding on forever, but in learning when to release with dignity. Sign 5. A new direction starts appearing quietly. One of the most subtle signs that Allah is closing a door for your protection is the quiet appearance of a new direction. It does not arrive loudly or dramatically. There is no sudden announcement, no overwhelming certainty. Instead, small changes begin to unfold, new thoughts, new opportunities, or a gentle curiosity towards something you never considered before. While one path feels heavier, another begins to feel lighter without you forcing it. At first, you may not even recognize this shift as guidance. You might think it is coincidence or distraction, yet the more you pay attention, the more you notice that your energy naturally moves toward this new space. Conversations begin to align differently, your interests change, and you feel a sense of calm when imagining a different future. Allah often introduces new doors softly, so your heart can adjust without fear. This new direction rarely replaces the old one immediately. Instead, both exist side by side for a while. The door you once wanted starts to lose its strength, while another path quietly grows clearer. This overlap can feel confusing, but it is also merciful. Allah gives you time to transition, allowing you to step forward gradually rather than through sudden loss. Sometimes the new direction appears through people who enter your life unexpectedly. Their presence shifts your perspective or introduces ideas that resonate deeply. Other times it comes through moments of reflection, a realization during prayer, a verse that speaks to your heart, or a feeling of peace when considering a different choice. Guidance does not always shout, often it whispers. You may also notice that the new path feels less forced. Where the previous door required constant effort and emotional strain, this new direction carries a sense of natural flow. It does not mean the journey will be without challenges, but the heaviness you once felt begins to fade. Allah replaces struggle with clarity, showing you that protection is not only about what ends, but also about what begins. There can be hesitation when you first sense this change. Part of you may still hold on to the old door, wondering if leaving it behind means giving up. But Islam teaches that moving forward with faith is not abandonment, it is trust. Allah does not close one path to leave you empty. He opens another so your growth can continue. As this new direction unfolds, you might feel a quiet excitement mixed with uncertainty. The unfamiliar nature of the path can be intimidating, yet there is also a sense of relief. Your heart begins to imagine possibilities beyond what you once thought was necessary for your happiness. This expansion reflects how Allah reshapes your vision, helping you see beyond your initial expectations. You may also realize that the new direction aligns more closely with your spiritual growth. It draws you toward environments that strengthen your faith, relationships that support your well-being, or goals that feel more meaningful. This alignment is not accidental. Allah guides you toward spaces where your heart can thrive, rather than struggle. During this transition, patience remains essential. The new path may not reveal itself fully right away. You might only see small pieces at first, a single opportunity, a brief moment of clarity, or a gentle sense of peace. These fragments are enough. Allah often reveals guidance step by step so you learn to trust the journey rather than demand immediate certainty. There is also a healing element in discovering a new direction. The disappointment tied to the closing door begins to soften as you realize that your life is not limited to one possibility. Allah expands your horizon, reminding you that His mercy is wider than any single outcome you once desired.